So today I'm going to go over a topic that I really haven't seen many people cover, and it's actually the DApp usage and how much money and how many users each DApp really has. In the first half of the video, I'm going to go over solely objective data, like the hard facts, and then I'll go over a little subjectively on what I think what each piece of this information actually means. So first, let's go over through Ethereum. And you see, as you scroll down, you're going to see about 2,000 total or 1,300 total dApps, which is by far the most between Ethereum, EOS, and Tron. But when you look at the user base, it's actually concerning when you see their best apps don't even have 1,000 users. And not to say that EOS or Tron really has significantly better, but in terms of some asset class that has billions of dollars invested in it, that's almost a little disappointing. So what I wanted to point out from each of them is that Ethereum has the most users, and something that you can note is that there's more games than gambling, and that's going to be different when we review EOS and Tron. But one big con is that not a single DApp has over 1,000 users in a 24-hour period, and it has the least 7-day volume in terms of all transactions, and it also has the least 7-day volume in terms of how much Ethereum is moved, and that can translate into an objective measure of how much US dollars is spent through these dApps. Next, I want to go over the EOS decentralized applications. First thing you're going to notice is the significantly more users in a 24-hour period that the EOS decentralized applications have over Ethereum. The best Ethereum application didn't even have 1,000 daily users, whereas EOS has over 10 with more than 1,000, and their best having 6,500 and 4,600 users. The next thing I'd like to take note of is the 7-day transaction volume, and this is already significantly higher. It's in the millions versus Ethereum, which is not in the millions. I will go more into all these numbers later and what I think they mean in terms of speculation, but right now I'm just going to do an overview. The last thing I'd like to note on the EOS page as of right now is that the total volume in terms of movement of EOS is significantly higher, and later I'll calculate that into US dollar valuation to really show you how much more EOS and Tron have in movement in terms of Ethereum. And one final note is that the majority of EOS EOS dApps are gambling on their top 50, whereas Ethereum has mostly games. Finally, I want to go over Tron. The first thing you're going to notice is that Tron has more gambling than games, but a very important thing to notice is that Tron's best decentralized application, has the most transactions in a 7-day period of all decentralized applications on any of the 3 platforms, Ethereum, EOS, or Tron. The next thing I want to note is the 7-day volume of Tron being moved throughout the decentralized application. That's 6.2 billion Tron, which is the equivalent of about 132 million US dollars. The best app, as of my current calculations and current prices, has Tron moving at $132 million in its best app. EOS's best app, which is the DICE, has 44 million EOS, which is about 125 million US dollars. And then you want to compare it to the best DApp on Ethereum, and you have these two right here. You have Ethnix Trustless, which only has 16 users, but then 200,000 volume. You can see that it's an exchange, so it's very difficult. I don't want to say that it's wash trading, but it's very difficult to think that 16 users are causing 10 times of a greater value. It could just be a whale moving, or it could be the exchange moving. I don't want to say anything for certain, but it's just something to take in mind when considering it. Then that's 10 times higher than the next highest DApp in terms of 7-day volume, whereas about 21,800 Ethereum are being moved. That's about $2.7 million. When you compare it to EOS's best app, is about $125 million being moved in a 7-day period, versus Tron's best app, which has about $132 million moved. There's actually some significant changes in the actual usage of the products and decentralized applications. Now, going back to Tron, I just want to point out that they have two big apps with more than 2,000 daily users, but then after that, they only have a few apps with even a few hundred. So, although they have two really strong apps in the current market, I wouldn't say in a 10-year time frame that 2,000 would even be like a drop in the bucket of the potential for any of these three platforms. But it's just something to take note that regardless, this is still the beginning stages. The next thing I want to go over is just a very minor rant in terms of all three platforms. I looked at the best game on each of the three platforms, being EOS Knights. Currently, the best game is Chibi Fighters for Tron and My Crypto Heroes, and all three of them were really left so much more to be desired. When I remember 12 years ago, I would be playing Flash games on addictinggames.com, and those games were all significantly better than the games I'm currently seeing on the decentralized applications. Understand that these are all super new. Tron is barely a year old, Ethereum's only a few years old, and EOS is also in its very young stages. So the games right now aren't really cutting it, but that's why there's been a major push by all of these organizations to have more dApps and more games. I saw the Ethereum conference about, I think it was about a month and a half to 2 months ago, where they released Casper, and it was really promising. It showed how many developers were super interested in Ethereum, and it did show me like a bright future for decentralized applications. But then Tron and EOS both have, to my knowledge, a gaming fund in terms and to help drive games and game developers to come to the blockchain. Whereas I know Tron, for example, had 100 million Tron blockchain or gaming fund where they could increase the amount of games. But right now, I just want to say that the games on the platform are really subpar, and they're nothing close to any of the games that have massive adoption today, where like you see Pokemon Go, you see Fortnite with millions and millions of users, and these games aren't even like a tenth, a hundred, like a hundredth as good. Like they're significantly worse. But in time, I believe that there will be games like that, and there will be significant advancements in the field. So it's just something to keep in mind for the future while you're investing. My personal conclusion is that each of the three platforms has a unique pro and a unique con. But you can see that the best decentralized applications only have a few thousand users, and there's billions of people in the world right now. So it's practically nothing in terms of overall adoption. In the next year or two of DApp development, that will really decide who is the victor in this space. And at the rate we're going, the race is still up for grabs for anyone to win. So based on this objective data that I'm evaluating, I'm going to make a little bit of a speculative analysis. So I think right now, one of the strongest dApps is TronBet, because that is creating the most transactions per 7 days, and it has the highest volume in terms of US dollars moved. As an overall platform right now, I believe that EOS is the strongest in terms of its user base, and having the active users is very important for increasing adoption. And then Ethereum, although it's a bit lackluster in terms of users, 7-day volume, and the amount of transactions, I personally think they do have a bright future ahead of them, and I think they're working on a lot of really strong projects, and we'll just see where the market goes and how there's actually some development in the future. The last thing I want to go over is that I'm not a financial advisor, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Don't invest solely on what I've said, and please do your own research before investing. As a new YouTube and content creator, every like, every comment, every subscription really does mean a lot for me, and it means a lot for the growth of my channel. I'm going to be trying to keep pushing out videos in the next upcoming weeks and months, and I'd really appreciate your support. Thank you.